Sorry about that. I'm in the car.
That's all right. Beg your pardon.
Drive carefully.
Charlie's two-fisting it tonight. He's attending 2 meetings.
Oh,
That's
Living the
okay.
dream.
That's
living the
impressive.
dream.
We'll get started shortly. I'd like to give Commissioner Holtzman another minute or so to join us if she can.
The President Blown, just so you know, we are live streaming on YouTube right now as well, which is
Roger that.
live feed. And if you give me a 5-second warning before we start so I can begin recording.
You betcha. Hope everybody's doing well. The new snow we got.
Yes.
That was something.
We thought maybe it would just be a light dusting. I made the mistake of, well, I went out and uncovered our strawberries because I was fighting with the voles all winter long. And so I thought if we expose them, they'll leave. So I uncovered them yesterday thinking they'll get some sun and the weather's going to be fine for a few days. And last night, Vicky looks and says, I don't think you're going to like what's coming in the next
No.
hours. So.
Well, I had a 7 o'clock dentist appointment, and I wondered if I was going to drive through. Well, driving home I hadn't driven in the snow in a long time, so it was fun.
Gotcha. Hey, Tom, we're going to go ahead and get started if you want to go ahead and get us recording.
Okay, we're ready.
All right. Good evening. My name is Dean Vallone, President of Lower Allen Township Board of Commissioners, and I'm calling our regular meeting of February 22nd of 2021 to order. Proof of publication is available. You're viewing. We begin our meetings with a prayer and a pledge of allegiance. Let's pray. We pray this day to give thanks for all the many blessings bestowed upon our township. Watch over us who are entrusted with the administration of this township. Create in us the earnest desire to serve faithfully and permit us to experience the joys of noble service completed for our residents. Encourage cooperation from those who are served and from those who serve. Help us to use every willing service and every effort put forth for good government. Heavenly Father, we ask your guidance to help us as commissioners to make the right decisions. We ask that you aid our staff as they perform the daily tasks of running our township. And we request that you be by our first responders as they protect our residents and see that they return home safe at the end of each day. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen.
And if you can, stand for the pledge. I believe there'll be a flag on the screen.
Oh.
I pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the
to the
republic
republic for which it stands,
One
one
nation,
nation, under God,
indivisible,
liberty,
liberty,
and
and justice for all.
Again, welcome everybody. I'm glad you're joining us this evening. It looks like we have a few staff members with us. I'm not sure if there's any public joining us this evening. There'll be opportunities for the public to chime in throughout our agenda. Commissioners, after in our packets this week, we received our meeting minutes from our February 8th, 2021 meeting. And if there's no questions or comments, be looking for a motion to approve those minutes, but would certainly entertain any questions, comments, or additions to those minutes.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes of February 8, 2021, as presented.
Second.
I have a motion to approve the minutes of February 8th by Commissioner Shin, and I have a second by Commissioner Black. Is there any further discussion on the minutes? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. this point, I'll ask Tom Burnell, our manager. Do you know if, oh, I just see Carolyn showed up on the screen now.
She did. She just,
So let's just take a second, see if we can make sure we're in touch with her. So she's part of our quorum this evening. Carolyn, are you with us? Commissioner Holtzman, are you with us?
Looks like she might be muted, Dean.
She's muted.
Commissioner Holtzman, can you figure out how to unmute yourself and let us know if you're with us? So what we'll do is we'll just temporarily go on and, oh, I see she unmuted. Are you with us, Carolyn? Okay, I think what we'll do is we'll move on and we'll hopefully get Carolyn her audio to join us here. It looks like she's online with us. It looks like we have a bid opening this evening for the Moorland Detention Basin retrofit project. Is that correct, Tom?
that's correct. We have four bids.
Imagine you're going to present those or open them, correct?
You're ready. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Go
to-
ahead. I believe we're ready.
Okay, the first bid is by Inslee. We have a bid of $156,175.70.
$156,175.70. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Got it. Bid bond?
I'm looking for it here. And we have a bid bond.
Okay.
Great. And just to be clear, that you said Kinsley and the regular Kinsley Construction.
Correct.
Oh.
Kinsley.
Got it. Okay. Are you ready for the next one?
Second bid is by All-Star Ecology. This one's double sealed. Do have a bid bond. We put it on top. Thank you. We have a bid of $123,364.62.
Okay, so I wrote that down as All-Star Ecology. And the bid amount was $123,364.62.
That's correct.
Got it, with the bid bond.
The third bid is from Stormwater Maintenance LLC. We have a bid amount of $179,656.71.
Okay, so I wrote that as a Stormwater Maintenance LLC for $179,656.71.
That's correct.
Got it.
Do they have a bid bond, Tom, or are you looking?
I'm looking.
Okay, I didn't know that you'd set it, so.
Thank you, Commissioner Shin. I overlooked that.
We do have a bid bond.
Okay, great.
I think we'll make it part of the instructions to put that on top.
There you go.
The final bid tonight is from Farhat Excavating LLC. That's FARHAT. We have a bid of $249,375.00.
Hey, did you say a bid bond was that?
I'm still looking for that.
They went for the gold on that one, didn't they?
And we do have a bid bond.
Okay.
Okay, so we got a bid bond, and I understood that as Farhat Excavating for $249,700, or excuse me, $249,375.00. Okay. Was there another, Tom?
Nope, that's it, just four.
Okay. So commissioners, hopefully you got to register all those on your log sheet. And then Tom, you'll see to it that the solicitor gets those bids.
Yes, I will.
All right.
Thanks for
terrific.
repeating those, Dean. That was good.
Sure. Thank you. Is on our agenda is audience participation, and that's for any item on our agenda. So if you're here, general public or anyone else that would like to speak or comment on any item on our agenda this evening, now's the time to let us know what item that is. I do see that, well, I know Charlie Courtney is here. I'm assuming representing Charter on 9A, and I saw that Anthony Ferranda Dietrich's here, and I assume he's here for 9A as well. Other than that, is there anyone here joining us that would like to speak on any item on the agenda? Put a message in the chat box to our manager. He'll get that message to us. And then when we come to that item, he'll let us know. Okay. And Tom, can you tell me if there's anyone in the joining us this evening from the public?
Allison Hanna is joining us, and she is a designee for the Recreation and Parks Board.
Okay.
And Mr. Nagy is joining us tonight. and Katie Hall.
Okay. So, of course, welcome to those folks as well. And if there's something you want to comment on that's currently on our agenda, just our manager, Tom Brunel, a message in the chat box. When we get to that item, we'll let you make your comments. So we'll move on to our consent agenda. Any commissioner, staff member, or anyone else in attendance who would like to have an item on the consent agenda removed for further discussion can request so now. Is there a request for the removal of any item on our consent agenda? Hearing none, we have to for a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda this evening. They are our department reports for the month of January for community development, fleet maintenance, facility maintenance, township engineer, public works, and public safety, as well as our tax collector's January monthly report. So commissioners, if you would entertain a motion, seeking a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda this evening as listed.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion to approve the consent agenda by Commissioner Kutz and a second by Commissioner Shin. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And Carolyn, I noticed that you got your mute off, so we just took your vote, and so you're part of the quorum now. 0 was the vote. Under your president, I'd be looking for a motion to approve the check register of February 2021 in the amount of $332,880.26.
So moved.
Second,
I have a motion from Commissioner Shin, a second from Commissioner Black. Is there any further discussion on the check register? Those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next, be looking for a motion to appoint Allison Hanna, 554 Moreland Court, Mechanicsburg, the Lower Island Township Recreation and Parks Board, to fill the unexpired term of Charles Angelo. We took this up at the last meeting, and accepting Angelo's resignation with regret, of course. And we're here now to appoint his replacement for the term, Allison Hanna. And Allison, welcome.
Mr. President, I'd like to make the motion to appoint Allison Hanna to the Lower Island Township Recreation and Parks Board to fill the unexpired term of Charles Angelo.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Kutz and a second from Commissioner Shin to appoint Allison Hanna to the Township Recreation and Parks Board to fill the unexpired term of Charles Angelo.
Mr. President, discussion on the motion.
I beg your pardon?
Discussion on the motion, Mr. President.
Yes, Commissioner Kutz.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to note it's my privilege to make this motion for Allison. And I met Allison at Highland Park last summer on the Parks and Recreation tour, along with members of the Recreation and Parks Board. She indicated her interest to serve then. We had a great conversation, received her resume, and when the vacancy came up, I was glad to see that her resume was submitted for the opening. Allison, we're very excited to have your expertise join the Parks and Recreation Board. Please let us know if there's anything we can do to welcome you. But welcome, and Mr. President, I'll be ready to proceed with the vote. Thank you.
Okay, is there any other comments, commissioners, before we proceed with the vote?
Well, I was going to say welcome, Allison, after she's appointed, but I'll say it before. Welcome. Welcome.
Any further discussion? Okay, I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Allison, again, yes. And we are privileged to have you join us and we look forward to getting to know you a little better. Rec board, and as Commissioner Kutz pointed out, if there's anything we can do to assist, please reach out. Please.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you all very much.
Welcome
you,
aboard,
Allison.
Allison.
Next on to our agenda this evening, any business pertinent to the township. We do limit our discussions to about 15 minutes. And that is any item you'd like to bring up. Is there anyone joining us from the public that would like to present or talk about any business that would be pertinent to the township? Now would be the time to let us know. And I'll let Tom, the manager, let us know if anyone is showing interest. At this.
No, don't see any hands up.
Okay. Well, therefore, we'll move on. If you do decide that you would like to step forward and talk about any business pertinent to the township, feel free to let the manager know, and we will circle back and get to you. No problem. Next on our agenda is under our township engineer. Looks like you have a couple items for us this evening, Dan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. First item, based on the discussion at the last board meeting, board was interested in revisiting the issue of banners over the roads, one over Arcona Road, one over Strong Road. So Mr. Courtney and Mr. Franda Dietrich are here tonight to discuss that and answer any questions or concerns that the board has. I will just let you know I do have a plan of the locations. If there's any need to discuss that, I can do a screen share with that if you need that for discussion purposes, or a map or aerial photos. So
Yeah,
Dan,
Dan,
I think that was a request from the last meeting. It's so noted in the minutes, so that I wouldn't mind seeing that.
And it's Anthony Franda Dietrich with Charter. I'm going to shoot you an email with a map as well as a couple of images of what these signs would look like. So that's coming your way. Also, if I could also share a screen if that's easier. I thought it might be helpful to see an example.
Well, Dan's, oh, there we go.
it's not the one I wanted.
While Dan's bringing that up, Anthony, this item at our last meeting drew some discussion, and I'm sure that you accommodated the best of your ability with the engineer. One of the things that was pointed out that drew my interest too was this kind of fear that there would be products, being for sale. And obviously that's not the intent. And I was just wondering if you could make any comment on that at all.
Sure. Yep. I'm happy to do that. And thanks for the opportunity to address those issues with the board. Dan, I did flip that email over to you if it comes in. I can also share a screen here, but the brief overview is Charter's proposing two banners. One would be over Strong Road, one would be over Arcona Road. The banners would advertise civic-oriented events within the neighborhood. So one example that I'll show you. Oh, and this is great, Dan. Thank you. This plan shows the location for the two banners. If everybody can see that, where I've noted banner location number 1, that's at the roundabout at Arcona and Lisburn Roads. So the idea here is that as you exit the roundabout, traveling south on Arcona Road into the commercial area or the downtown village area of the neighborhood, there would be a sign that a banner that would be up that again would advertise different events that would be happening within the neighborhood and within the community. In a similar fashion, you have a second banner location over along Strong Road. The idea is traveling south on Strong Road and down into the the village center here. A similar banner would be advertising that that same civic event. Dan, if you go to the next PDF, or not the next slide in this PDF, this is an example of the type of banner that we're envisioning. This is a banner that is at the Walden neighborhood, not far from Arcona. Here, the banner is attached to buildings. We're not proposing that with respect to the banners we want to do at Arcona. They'll be attached to 2 freestanding poles outside of the street right away. But you can see this particular banner is advertising for a tree lighting event that the neighborhood association holds each year at Walden. It's called Walden Winter Lights. So you can see there's a date associated with that event. In this case, there's a period of time associated with that event. This banner goes up, a day or 2 in advance of the tree lighting and comes down a day or 2 after the tree lighting. So it's not a permanent fixture, and that's we're proposing the same thing at Arcona, that these banners will come and go as different community events are happening. So it's just a nice way to keep the homeowners informed of things that are happening within the neighborhood, and folks traveling on those 2 roads, a way to advertise to those folks that, hey, we have a neighborhood event, a community event that's going to be happening at Arcona. So that's the gist of it. This particular sign or this particular banner, it's 24 feet long, so it spans the cartway of the street in this case, and it's 2 feet tall. So it's not overwhelming. It's not an enormous, sign that's going to be over the street. And again, it goes up and down as the events are happening, and it's advertising more of this, civic nature of Arcona. It's not advertising particular businesses or other commercial uses at the site.
Sam, Anthony,
go ahead, Charlie.
Charlie. Yeah, Charlie Courtney. So the only thing I'd add to that is, so I know in paragraph 4 of the resolution where it talks about no more than 20% of the message relate to naming or advertising of a commercial product, enterprise, business, or company. The whole intent here is to advertise civic events. The only reason why that very specific language is in the resolution is that PennDOT's publication 46 requires that the resolution state that. So it's standard PennDOT language, but the overall the PennDOT regs and also as reflected in this resolution are all intended to be kind of civic-based advertisement for those types of events.
Anthony, how set are these locations for them? I'm looking at the one on Strong Road, and is that I don't know. I was thinking I don't have my laser pointer here like I usually do. So I'm looking at, I guess, down towards Wolford Way. Is there a reason it couldn't go kind of on the other side of Wolford Way towards the walking trail there? Maybe on the street side of there, or even further down. Is there a reason it couldn't go further down there?
I I think from a permitting standpoint, it certainly could. So I don't think there's anything prohibiting where we would put the sign along Strong Road. However, I would add, we would want the sign in proximity to that, to Market House Lane and that entrance into that central location and green space, which is, I mean, for the most part, where these events are going to be happening. So that's why that location was selected, because it was, relatively close to where we think most of these events would occur. If you're traveling on Strong Road, that would give you the opportunity then to turn onto Market House Lane and head that direction. But happy to consider other locations if there's a concern that you have related to where we're showing it.
Okay, so can we approve the concept tonight and then just have a further discussion about the location? Would that be possible?
Well, I would hope the discussion is not over yet.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I'd be.
And if we wanted to say, okay, we're good, but we want to look at moving that somewhere that's. So my concern there, that's a open green space right there in front of those 4 houses, and might be a little unsightly to have there. I was thinking either on the that's what I was thinking, if it moved down closer to Wolford Way or on the other side, but I understand wanting to keep it close to Springgate there. I don't love the location of that one. I think the one on Arcona
Right.
is fine. I'm a little concerned about the aesthetics of that one. So that's why I was brainstorming if there's other locations. And I'm sure most of the traffic is coming up that way from Strong Road. So I get why you'd want it to be there for everyone to see.
Right. No, and that's a fair point. And, like I said, if happy to consider moving it elsewhere. Would it be, I mean, if we moved it south so that it was more towards the intersection with Market House Lane, would that be helpful? I mean, that way we would have it. Obviously there's an apartment building there, but it wouldn't be directly in front of a townhouse building.
Right. Yeah, that might help. And again, Anthony, these banners are just up. So the poles are permanent, but the banners are only going to be up for a few days at a time.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess it's so I'm basically what I'm envisioning. And I think there's I don't know about the trees out there, but I know basically it's just a big green space in front of the townhomes that I'd hate just to see one random pole sticking out of. So that was my
Sure.
concern
Sure.
there. But yeah, that's a minor thing. So I'll give up the floor if anyone else wants to chime in here.
Well, I have 2 thoughts. And first of all is a process thing. And I guess I would ask Dan this: are they meeting Lower Allen Township sign codes?
Yes, that's another part of the process. Once this part of the approval is done, they would still have to do the application approval process in accordance with the sign portion of the zoning ordinance.
Okay. The only other thing I had is, maybe it's because I'm a short timer now, I don't know, but looking at the future, the resolution talks about Lower Allen Township having the responsibility for erecting and maintaining the banners. Now, I don't know how long Charter is going to be in on this, Charlie, but there'll come a day when people who are looking at this today won't be around to remember what was talked about today. Is the township assured of any quality, banner quality, upkeep of these banners?
Well, we are, for example, with respect to Strong Road, right? The township's being giving us a license. So in theory, right, that license could be revoked. So, and that's kind of, how we're operating here. So if at some point in the future, 30 years from now, when none of us are around, and some, the poles aren't maintained, or the banners that are being used, for whatever reason, just it's unattractive, or the banners are left up, they're dilapidated, then the township always has the ability to kind of pull that back. So that's the way I look at it. The township has the upper hand here for the duration of how long those poles are in and the banners are up.
Yeah, Charlie, Dean Malone, that's a promising answer. I had a similar question with Commissioner Shim, but from the angle of more of down the road, as we're talking 10 or 20 years. Obviously in 10 years, Charter still has an interest in making sure everything's tidy around the neighborhoods. And I'm sure they will down the road too. But having some experience in a very old HOA myself, I know that after a couple of decades, when the association got turned over to the folks living in the community, after a while, as the community started to age, common areas, common responsibilities, they do tend to kind of, they're in the hands of people there that are elected by their association, and I'll tell you from my experience that people generally will fall off, so to speak, with regard to their responsibilities as a whole, a lot of times in those organizations. And I'm just curious, is there language that goes into your restrictive covenants, I guess is what it would be, or bylaws or rules and regulations that would, when this gets turned over, that puts the responsibility on the neighborhood association?
Yeah, Anthony, this would be brought in as a common element, right? It would be within a common element then that would be maintained by the HOA under the planned community docs.
Yeah, that's the
Right.
intent. Yes.
Yeah. So we could actually, we could specifically reference that. By law, anything that serves in common as a common element with respect to the community is something that has to be maintained by the HOA. We can certainly make a specific reference in the document. I think it would be covered anyways, because you've got catch-all provisions, but I think we could cover that specifically if that's something the board would like. The other thing is that, this HOA, in particular the master HOA, isn't going to be your typical residential development HOA. It's going to be something that's going to have to be, kind of professionally managed. Think about some of the larger community HOAs that you might see in kind of, larger developments down south. You have some very sophisticated HOAs that just aren't mowing basins. So, and those typically have some type of, or have to have some type of professional or property management company to kind of help run it, so that you don't have situations where people aren't paying attention to it. So, but we'd be happy to specifically reference that in the HOA docs if that's something the board would like.
Yeah, and thank you for that other comment. That's actually promising to know. That the intent is to make sure that it's professionally managed later on. That's great. That's great news. Thank you.
Charlie, this is Ed Black. This is not an agreement with the developers. This is an agreement with the Arcona Master Association, which is the Residents Association, correct?
Correct. That's the master HOA.
Okay.
And that's going to be the HOA that's going to, that's the big HOA, and that's the one that's going to be here for the life of the existence of the development.
I understand.
Commissioners, are there any other questions or comments on this item?
Well, I'd just like to know if we're, the subject was thrown out there and Charlie said, well, if the township would like it to be that way. We haven't said so. Now, what are we going to do? Do we want do we want that fine tuning in or don't we? I know I do.
Well, Commissioner Shin, I appreciate what you're saying. I mean, and I'm a dot the I, cross the T guy too. But one thing I heard was that, the township is holding the strings here down the road. And it seems as if, and correct me if I'm wrong, I guess Tom Bruneau or maybe our solicitor, that the township's going to have the ability later on to revoke this license. And then just, I would assume maybe if the HOA didn't take it down, the township would just take it down.
Okay.
If I may, Mr.
Yeah.
President, I have no issue if Mr. Courtney wants to add the specific language to clarify Mr. Shin's concern. But I agree with what Charlie said. My concern always has been, I don't know anything about these associations. So that's why you have the indemnification and the insurance clauses and the ability to revoke the license. I mean, the fact that township is involved with the permitting process also gives me some comfort too.
Yeah, but to me, that holding that Damocles, the sword of Damocles over somebody's head, that just puts people on opposite sides rather than having something spelled out and they know what their responsibilities are. That doesn't put the township then standing there saying, we're going to revoke your license. I don't want to be.
And I don't want to.
adversaries.
No, and as I said, Mr. Shin, I have no problem. If you want the clarifying language, it can read better. I have no problem with that. I'm just saying that my concern all along was that I wanted some township control because, it's not charter, it's a homeowners association. And, that's the reason for the license and making it revocable, but also requiring the security. But no, I mean, if Charlie offered it, I'd certainly, let the commissioners, I encourage the commissioners to get that clarification.
I guess I have less confidence in HOAs than the solicitor does, than the attorney does. Let's just leave it there.
Okay.
Whatever you want to do.
Well, so commissioners, I guess the Commissioner Shin's question is do we want to ask charter through Charlie Courtney, I guess, to put language in there that would designate that responsibility, I guess, explicitly to the HOA. And it sounds like, Charlie, is that something that, you said you'd be willing to do?
Yeah, I think we could, I think we could add language to this that charter, charter shall provide the township with proof that under the plan community documents, the maintenance of the banners is the responsibility of the HOA. And, we could, have that provided within a certain designated period of time. It might already be the case. I just have to pull the documents and look.
Rick, are you saying that you're not confident in the way it's currently written, where it says township hereby grants a revocable license to association?
My concern, Ed, is that we get to a point where, as I guess it was either Anthony or Charlie, created a scenario where saying if the banners start getting ragged and are not in good condition, I just don't want to have to say to somebody that banner stinks. Let's have some requirement or some expectation, all right, some of what's going to be hanging there. That we're not going to put, well, that thing was new 20 years ago. Now it's fallen apart, and I have a friend who goes around and complains to businesses when their United States flag is tattered. All right, I don't think we want banners hanging. Anybody, whoever's sitting in these seats 12, 14, 15 years from now, don't want crap hanging there. And if there's a way to have some type of expectation of quality, I think it should be there rather than saying we're going to revoke your license if you don't do it. But what do we want me to do? Give them some responsibility. Did I answer your question, Ed?
Yeah, I think it's okay as written, but Charlie says he can write it differently, so I'm fine with that too.
Yeah, I mean, with respect to the condition, we could add some language that essentially says that, that the banners that are displayed shall be, in good condition and repair, et cetera, so to deal with.
Professional or whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Lady.
Yep.
Does that satisfy Commissioner Shin if they put something like that in there?
Based on what I saw with the graphic tonight and that issue being handled, I'm fine. I'm ready to vote for it.
Got it. So Commissioner Kutz, are you okay to move forward tonight or?
Yeah, I'm good to move forward tonight. I might just want to take a look with Anthony down the road and see if they have alternatives or not. Or I just want to see what it would look like. So, but nothing to hold it up. I'm more just a probing question.
Okay, Carolyn, do you have anything to comment about on this?
I'm fine.
Okay, so I guess my question will be, I mean, it sounds like we're going to be able to move forward and get this piece approved tonight. How we do that is there just going to be I guess, an understanding. So Steve, I guess maybe you can guide us through this. We would approve it as is, just with an understanding of what we discussed.
It's really board's prerogative. If you would rather wait in 2 weeks and see, Mr. Courtney's language, that's one approach. If you want Mr. Courtney and I to work together and you make it contingent upon my approval, I'm fine with that too.
I would be comfortable with that. What do you think, commissioners?
I'm comfortable if Steve gives the go ahead.
I have faith in our attorneys.
Ed, Carolyn?
I'm with you.
Okay, so it sounds like we'd be looking for a motion to adopt resolution 2021-R-07, authorizing placement of a banner across Arcona Road, SR 2015, contingent on the solicitor's final approval. Does that sound about right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that's what we'd be looking for.
So moved.
Okay, so I have the motion that will adopt resolution 2021-R-07, authorizing placement of a banner across Arcona Road.
State Route 2015.
Yeah, State Route 2015. Contingent on the solicitor's approval. And I have a motion from Commissioner Shin and a second from Commissioner Kutz. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the motion carries 5-0. Mr. Courtney and Anthony, thank you so much for joining us and answering our questions.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you all. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Charlie.
All right.
Okay.
Dan?
Ready for item B. This is the drainage plan that was actually discussed at the last meeting. The last meeting, we were talking about the license agreement for a sewer location in the street right of way. This is the actual drainage plan for the site, which the board has to provide an approval on because these plans get recorded in the courthouse. Even though it's a single family home, because it exceeds the exemption on impervious coverage, they are required to have stormwater management on the site. And a little tough to see here. This is the corner lot at Hartsdale Drive and Slate Hill Road. And the house is being located here. And in the front yard, there will be an infiltration trench where the stormwater runoff from the roof leaders and the driveway will be directed to that infiltration bed. So the developer is required to do this drainage plan that'll be recorded. There'll be a maintenance agreement with it.
Dan, do we have any idea the size of the dwelling that's going to be? I mean, I need my magnifying glass to read this.
Yeah, 38 feet wide and 30 feet deep.
What's the math on that?
Hey, can you increase the percentage?
So this is the house footprint here, infiltration area in the front yard, and this is the driveway here.
Oh, the driveway goes out onto Hartsdale.
Yes,
Oh, that's exciting.
probably less exciting than if it went on to Slate Hill Road.
Oh, man. Wow, the way the traffic comes, that's going to be very interesting.
Yeah.
They'll be driving through the trees and so on there, Dan. They're going to have to do some fill, or what are they going to do?
Yeah, they will have to raise this up somewhat from where it is now. The back part of the property is in the floodplain. So they actually need to raise the house has to be elevated above floodplain elevation. And there are other floodplain construction requirements to be met. So laterally, they have to stay out of the floodplain and then vertically stay above the floodplain.
Wow. Okay.
Does that sit right next to an empty lot?
Yeah, that's it, Carolyn.
It is the empty lot. Yes.
It is the empty lot.
Oh, it is the empty lot.
Yeah. Wow.
Commissioners, any other questions for Dan?
Do we have to? I guess we do.
Well, he is looking for possible action on this evening if we're so inclined.
Well, I just have one question. Dan, does it meet all the requirements it has to meet?
Yes, it does.
In that case, I would make a motion that we approve a drainage plan number DP 2017-02 at 1 Hartsdale Drive.
Second.
I have a motion to approve the drainage plan number DP 2017.
Dean, are they going to build a house on that lot?
Yes.
They are. Are they going to conform with the rest of the houses in Rossmoyne?
Well, they'll conform with the zoning and building construction standards that they're required to conform to.
Because the one house that's there in the second lot is completely out of kilter to our development.
Call for the question, Mr. President.
Yeah, so Carolyn, it sounds like they're going to have to comply to our zoning and building codes or ordinance codes. So I believe that our zoning and ordinances and codes are pretty tight with regards to buildings. So I think we're pretty good there for a modern build. Is that it, Carolyn?
Yeah, for now.
Okay, so I have a motion to approve the drainage plan number DP 2017-02 at 1 Hartsdale Drive from Commissioner Shin. And I had a second, I think, from
Commissioner Black.
Commissioner Black. Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Okay, I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And
That's all I have. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. And thank you for your patience, everybody. When there's a diagram on the screen, I have trouble seeing who's doing what because there's only a couple people. And so thank you for your patience as we got through that motion. Next, Stormwater Program Manager. Is that going to be Becky? Good evening, Becky.
Good evening, Mr. President. Thank you for your time this evening, Board. I have 2 items for consideration. The first item would be a letter of commitment. We're looking to have the Board of Commissioners commit to providing funding for a grant that we are applying through to the Chesapeake Bay Trust for permeable or porous pavement in the Sharman Manor development, along with 2 bioretention cells. We would be looking for a 20% match to this project. We're asking for $175,000, and we would be asking for the board to commit to a 20% match of that for a total grant request of $205,000.
I'll make that motion, Mr. President.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Shin and a second from Commissioner Black.
Dean, I'd like to ask a question of the engineer before we do that. And I'm in favor of this. Please.
I figured so.
How was this site selected for this project, Dan?
Well, it's a neighborhood that has a fair amount of drainage in the streets down to a low point without benefit of storm sewers. So there's a fair amount of impervious coverage where the runoff is on the streets and not into a storm sewer system. And at that low point, it then drains directly into Bethany Village. So it would also help, in addition to treating the runoff at the source, at the pavement, it would also help to alleviate a problem that has been plaguing Bethany Village for quite a while, where the runoff runs into their neighborhood unabated. So there were several different factors together that made this, and we had a section of the street, it's the dead end section at the back end of Bethany Village, in the public right of way, where we could actually remove some pavement and put in stormwater treatment facilities.
Would this pavement be handled the way pervious pavement is most often used, with the aggregate reservoir beneath the paving?
In this case, there would be, because it's not a large area, we're not doing the entire street. It's a 2-foot strip along the curb that would allow the stormwater to infiltrate into that. Then there would be an under drain system to allow the water to keep moving. We're not going to infiltrate it at that location in the street. It's going to take it down to the bioretention areas at the low end of the project, and that's where the treatment and the infiltration would take place. So it's not going to be stationary in a storage bed underneath the street pavement.
Okay, so you're answering my question. It's not going to be infiltrated downward under the street. It's going to be carried away to a proper site.
Correct.
Okay, I'm fine.
Commissioners, any further comments or discussions?
No, sir.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. The question, so therefore, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Becky.
Yes, I have one more item, Mr. President. It's a resolution 2021 R09. So the Chesapeake Bay Trust would like the township to commit to maintenance. So Commissioner Black asked about maintenance of these facilities. I'm asking for a signature on this resolution to commit that we would be maintaining these facilities and also to support township staff to apply for this grant.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and I have a motion from Commissioner Shin, a second from Commissioner Black. Is there any question on this resolution 2021 R09?
Yeah, Mr. President, if I may.
Commissioner Kutz.
Thank you. Becky, thanks for your work on this. That sounds like a great project with the grant. Just so I have this clear, so this is basically so that we are applying for the grant. If we get it, we're just saying that we're just gonna upkeep the basin ourselves.
Yes,
Which
and
is what-
and the permeable pavement.
Okay, which is what we do with all of our other basins, correct?
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
and this is all funded from the stormwater fee.
That's correct.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Mr. President.
Thank you. Anyone else? Commissioners? Becky, I guess my question is has to do with the first one as well. What's your, I mean, you've done a great job getting us grants for this these MS4 projects, which most certainly takes some burden, in the future off of our residents. Looking at possible increases down the road, it starts to relieve some of those burdens for the stormwater fee, and that is so appreciated. What's your gauge on whether or not this grant will come through for us?
Excuse me, President, you cut out the last part of your question. I'm sorry.
No problem. I was just asking what your feeling is of what the likelihood that this grant will come through for us.
I feel really good about it, although this program is different than other programs I've applied to. For example, NIFWIF and DEP, this is a different program, and we are at a disadvantage, I'd have to admit, to tell you. It's a Maryland-based funding program, and 50% of their funding goes right to the state of Maryland. So we only have about a 50% chance out of the gate. But I do feel confident because we've gotten letters of commitment from the Stormwater Authority, now from the Board of Commissioners for funding, and also for commitment of volunteers to plant the plants, and also commitment from the county to advertise our project as kind of a demonstration project for the county's WIP plan. So I'm very confident that we have a strong application.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. And again, we've been hitting so well with these grants, and the taxpayers, I can tell you, really appreciate it. And we have those discussions. I know I do, and they know that we're working very hard at getting these grants.
Well, I would have to say, Mr. President, that I think it's our success is certainly no random thing, because Becky is doing a fantastic job, and I think Lower Allen leads in so many ways in this category. So I want to also thank you, Rebecca, for all your work.
Thank you. Thank you so much, commissioners.
All right, so I'm going to call for the question. In favor, please say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Again, Becky.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to move on to it's number 11 on our agenda under finance. It looks like we're going to get a report from our finance director on the 2020 operating results.
Yes, thank you. As part of the agenda titled, it's really just as much about the future as it is the past. Looking at 2020 financially, it was a good year for hand wringing. It was filled with uncertainty, and as it unfolded, events occurred that I never had to deal with before in my entire career. So it was a very different year. Last year, at several points throughout the year, we came up with financial forecasts of what this all might mean. All the predictions suggested a deficit between about $150,000 and $350,000. And it looked, up until about a week and a half ago, it looked like that was exactly where we were going to end up. At that time, we had a deficit of $250,000, but we still had some year-end accruals to make. And one of those had to do with grants receivable. We had to put those on the books. And when that got on there, we had a great year for grants. When that got on there, it nudged us up into the positive. So when I wrote the memo that you had in your packet, we had a surplus at that time of 220,000. Well, there's still a few more accrual entries to make. They're not going to be very big. They'll change that number. I mean, theoretically, it could go either way, but really, I think it's going to go up. I think 220 is the smallest deficit we will see when things all come to rest. If we look at revenues in 2020, it was not a good year at all. It kind of got hit from two ways. I mean, those things that you typically see in a recession occurred, and things that are unpleasant that you don't typically see in a recession also occurred. In particular, things you do see in a recession, you see large economically sensitive revenues go down sharply and suddenly. And they did. And that would be things like earned income tax, local services tax, real estate transfer tax, construction related revenue, those things. But we also saw things go down really rather abnormally. You know, they were small revenue sources, but they don't normally go down in a recession. For example, park related revenues. They normally go up. That'd be things like the rental of the barn or the rental of pavilions. They typically go up in a recession. Last year, due to COVID, they went down. Now, if you look at expenditures, though, expenditures last year saved the day. Expenditures don't usually go down in a recession, but last year they went down almost $1 million from what the spending was in 2019, and was about $2.1 million under budget. And I mean, the details of that is in the memo. There are three principal causes: postponement of large outlays, truncation of normal activities, and above average number of unexpected employee vacancies. None of which I expect to continue on into 2021. So what about 2021? I thought before I look at that, we could just briefly jump ahead to 2022. You recall the financial plan that was adopted through Resolution 2020-R07. That allowed for the drawdown of $1 million of fund balance before we would start talking about more unpleasant things like tax increases. If you think of where we were just a week and a half ago, I was expecting a 2020 deficit of $250,000. Then for 2021, we have a budgeted deficit of $260,000. So I was expecting to go into the beginning of the 2022 budget process with that $1 million having largely been depleted. Now, we have this surprise surplus from 2022 that just happens to work out. It's going to probably be very close to the deficit we have budgeted for 2021. So as we start the 2022 process, assuming this year goes fine, we'll still have that full $1 million. So I never guessed. I would have never guessed that I would be reporting this to you. So it's good news, and it's always great to report that type of thing. But 2021 is important too. We have some challenges. Revenues, as I'm sure you can expect, are still under pressure. I don't think they're going to be anywhere near as bad as they were in 2020. The revenue budget was increased only by 1%, so we didn't set the bar very high, but it's an important bar, and we'll keep an eye on it throughout the year. On the expenditure side, like I said, I think expenditures will pop back into their usual shape. We will still be under budget. We always are. In expenditures, we will not be $2.1 million under budget. But overall, I think 2021 will be a year we want to keep our eye on. But at this point, I really don't see any reason to conclude that it will end up any worse than the $260,000 deficit we have budgeted. So overall, that's pretty good news, at least I thought. Anybody have any questions?
I just want to thank you for your memo, Rick, and now the explanation of it. I am kind of excited. I actually understood most of it.
It took me years to get it in that form, but I'm glad I did.
You keep
Rick, I was muted, but I said, there you go. It took you 30 years.
Yeah, that's right. Fair
keep
statement.
bringing good news, Rick. We're going to invite you back.
Uh-oh.
I
Be careful. I'm liable to take you up on that.
I would just say that's terrific, Rick. When I was reading the memo, I was smiling. And I think, I mean, our management and our staff, and we can't thank you, everyone, enough for accommodating the will of this board. And that is to keep an eye on things. And when, you know, when the pandemic really started to hit us, I remember that first meeting when we started talking about, you know, what we were going to start to do.
Mm-hmm.
And we all had some really good conversations. And I want to thank everybody, our manager, our assistant manager, our directors, all of our managers in the township for the hard work that you've put in to keep us not only informed as we go along with all of this, but to really be sensitive to what you felt our needs were and that. And so this is great news. And I hope we can continue this trend moving forward. We certainly, in recovery, I know that our residents will be very appreciative moving forward, like with this kind of news. And I know it doesn't always come, Rick Grove, our director of finance, for you to be sharing that kind of news, but hopefully there'll be more of that to come. So thank you.
Good job, Rick.
Commissioners, does anybody else have any other comments?
Yeah, Mr. President, if I may just jump in here. This is excellent news. I appreciate so much the staff time that went into putting us in this position. And really not to repeat Dean's comments, but that's just incredibly encouraging for us to see that, you know, being smart and tightening our belts when we need to really pays off. You know, we promised a budget on time, balanced, and without a tax increase. And in the middle of a global pandemic, we delivered just that. And it's really a testament to the ability for you guys to crunch the numbers and help us move things around and do what makes sense. So just want to thank the staff for their work on that. I'm excited in the next couple of years to continue to bear down and keep making smart fiscal decisions. I know our residents are really happy not to see their tax bill go up. So as long as I'm on the board, that'll be my goal every year. So just thanks for your due diligence and your attention, and looking forward to tackling budget number 2 next year.
Well, thanks again. If anyone has any comments, chime in, but we're going to go ahead and move on to Community and Economic Development. Aaron Trone.
Good evening. Tonight I'm here to request authorization to advertise for a construction code official. This is a replacement position. We typically have 2 construction code officials. We've been operating with just one since August of 2020. One of the reasons we kind of delayed bringing somebody on was to hold some costs down. And at times that has been difficult for our staff, since we were covering a fairly large workload with one man down. But spring is always our busy time, and we'd like to be able to advertise now with the hope that we could bring somebody on by about mid-April.
Aaron, I have a question.
Yeah.
When Mr. Yount left, wasn't there some discussion about using an outside agency to do something? And did we do that?
Yes. So we brought in Approved Code Services, and they are our backup, and they're also doing our commercial inspections and plan review for us. They have done a wonderful job, but I think as one of the things we discussed at budget time, it makes sense to have it makes sense for us to know who's in the township. And so when we have somebody who's on our staff that's going and doing inspections and is doing plan review, then it gives staff a chance to meet who is in these buildings. Whereas when it's third party and it is outsourced, those two kind of never really meet in that way. And I think it has a lot of advantages to the township. Also, we're really quite busy with residential inspections and residential plan review right now because our Kona is still being built. And as we've seen throughout the pandemic, since people aren't going places, they're making a lot of renovations to their homes. So that is keeping us busy. And in the past, David Yount was while he primarily did commercial, he also was backup for residential. So right now, Rich High is the only one doing that. And he has a fairly heavy workload. And we'd like to bring somebody on to assist with that.
Did we do any comparison from a cost standpoint? I mean, I'm not deaf. I heard with respect to the, I'm going to call it the feel-good version, okay? And I don't mean that detrimentally. It's nice to know that people know who's in the township. But we just looked at it from a cost standpoint. How does that fare? Can you comment on that?
Sure. So in years when we are doing a lot of work and a lot of construction, it is financially prudent that we would have people on staff. In years when there's less construction, then that payoff may or may not be there. That was also one of the reasons why I think we held off on bringing somebody on right away, was because we did see that some of the commercial was down. The problem is that the way our fees are set up, we have a fee structure in place for our residential inspections based on the fact that we have somebody in-house. And if we have to start outsourcing some of the residential inspections, I think we're going to start to lose money because that's not the way the fee structure is set up. We did change it this year so that if we went to third party for commercial inspections, we would not be operating at a loss. But it's not just about doing commercial inspections. It's also about having assistance for residential. And, to be fair, 2020 was maybe a down year, but we've had many, many years where we have far outpaced what we projected we would be bringing in for construction. And I think there's hope to think that we will see that again in the future. And I think it made sense all these other years to have two inspectors in-house.
I just one last question. Did I hear you just say that the folks at Charter are making renovations to their homes?
No.
Oh, okay.
Other homeowners.
Wow, already.
I mean, they might be. I think that we have seen some patios and things come in, but no. Primarily, what we see is other homeowners in the township that are doing renovations, that are doing changes, upgrades to their home, and then on top of that, Arcona is still continuing to build. Yeah. So those are what I'm trying to say is that we have quite a few residential inspections and plan reviews that are still coming in.
Thank you.
Aaron, my question is this. So after Arcona, I mean, we're essentially built out from the standpoint of residential, and so I don't know, what about 8 to 10 more years, I suppose, before they're done building. When we hire employees, they're permanent. I mean, generally speaking. And so I guess for me, I'm trying to understand what Dave left. And so when, let's just say, right now we're using the subcontractor to fill in. And it sounds like because we were in a down year, that worked a little smoother than maybe it would have 2 years ago, let's say. And let's say in 5 or 6 years, is there still going to be a demand for this person, is what I'm saying? Will we still have that need just based on people doing renovations or putting in patios or decks or whatever later on? I guess I don't particularly know how that work is dispersed based on what demand there is. And maybe that would be a helpful conversation just to have with the board, so we understand, you know, how much of it's commercial, how much of it is new building, and how much of it's just the average homeowner doing some work around their house. Because if it's continuous work, let's say on the renovations all the time, well, of course, then we should have somebody, you know, no doubt about it. But if it's spotty, I'm not convinced that we would need that. But we have the new builds going on now, which obviously is very demanding.
Right, and also there's going to be some commercial that's coming in as part of Arcona. I also think that we'll be seeing redevelopment in the township. I think it's important that we see redevelopment in the township. So I think that that's still going to be an ongoing issue. In some ways, as they age, it's almost more important that you have code officials that are making sure that we're still continuing to meet standards, because as buildings age, that's where it becomes more of a problem, when you start to get wonky renovations and things like that, where people are doing it themselves. So it's really important that we have people that are reviewing plans and ensuring that it's done well and done correctly.
I gotcha.
It's hard for me to predict what the makeup is. It's always different every year. And there's always, and Dan will tell you this, there's always some surprise. There, you know, we'll sit down and we'll look at the land development plans, because those tend to take a little bit longer in the pipeline. So there's some that we're still looking at and tracking and saying, okay, this has come in, so we would expect to see these buildings go up vertical this year. But there's always one or two, a lot of times office buildings that decide to do a major renovation, and it brings in cash flow that we never expected or anticipated.
And
We're still busy, and that's good.
Right, and that creates a demand then, not just for a specialty to do residential. That creates a demand. I mean, we have that demand for both people trained or to work in areas, right? The residential and the, I guess we call it commercial, but to me, a new build is kind of commercial, you know, because you're not dealing with a residential. Typically, you're not dealing with sprinkler systems and stuff like that. But the new builds, I think, you know, especially when there's apartments, have, you know, sprinkler systems. So they're treated like a commercial building, I would think, right? Like apartment buildings. Yeah.
I think both Dave and Rich worked on some of the apartment buildings in Arcona.
Okay.
The Strand.
All right. I mean, that's all the questions I had. Anybody?
If I can jump in. And Rick Grove, Director Grove, maybe this is a question for you. I know Rick asked the budget question. I'm curious though, if you have any idea long-term, 10, 20 years, 30 years, the life of an employee at the township, is third party using our outsourcing, is that going to be significant savings over, I'm talking the next 30 years, is that going to be significant savings over having a second person back in-house?
I looked at this particular situation early on when he first left, and it's very likely that it will be cheaper to hire somebody and have them in-house than it will be to outsource. I mean, I don't know exactly, you know, all the job and what all it is, but it seems logical too that the service levels will be higher with an in-house person. So I couldn't really find any reason, you know, not to support it.
Yeah,
My favorite subject, service levels.
I asked the question, is service levels aside, I asked the question because I know previously there had been discussion about a tax increase and at some point in the future, and if it's something that could stave off a tax increase, which I would be very much against, then that would be something to consider. But if you're saying it's actually in our best fiscal interest and our best interest for service levels to hire in-house, I'm absolutely in favor of that.
Right. Commissioner, I also wanted to add that, you know, we're not really comparing apples to apples. It's not, even though it sounds, you know, Rick was saying it comes down on the side of hiring being less expensive, even if the reverse were true, it's not a fair comparison. Because as you said, you know, we can outsource, but you're not getting the same things. There are still things here in the office that aren't being done. And it's very possible, you know, we could be coming and saying, well, we need more clerical help now, because, or we need a plan reviewer or something like that. So this is, you know, I don't want to call it a jack of all trades, but this is what having somebody in-house, they can do more things. If we outsource, they're just going to do inspections.
Yeah, and that's why my question was about significant savings. If we're talking I agree there's trade-offs, there's costs and benefits of both. If it was going to be $100,000 every 3 years that we'd save, it'd be one thing. If it's minimal, if it's nominal savings, you go with the in-house. But Rick's assuaged my concerns, so I'm good.
Well, I think the president's comment with respect to employees becoming permanent. Government does not have a record for reducing personnel when it's right to do that because the work isn't there. That's the only concern I've always had over the years. When we add an employee, we got them unless they want to leave. So maybe a future board may have to make a decision that is not warranted today, but we can only think so far, so much.
Yeah, and Rick, I appreciate Commissioner Shin's comments and President Vallone kind of echoing the same thing. When we're asked to hire for a new position, it's a 30-year decision. So, just a couple questions about long-term outlook because it's someone who's going to be here probably 30 years. So just want to make sure we do our due diligence looking ahead to the future.
And luckily, we are heading into a period of time when there are a lot of retirements coming up. So if we need to, we may be able to reduce the staff by attrition.
Well, I want to remind the board that Assistant Manager Trone's being here at all before she was assistant manager was a decision by the board to not replace the assistant manager, much to the manager's chagrin. But we got a good employee. That's an understatement. And now she's grown into that position that we would have been hiring for. So I think we did the right thing there.
Yeah, I had to actually work when you didn't replace Jan.
What's that?
I had to actually work when you didn't replace Jan.
Yeah, you said it. I didn't.
Although the manager brings up a good point about retirements, and if you can, Tom, maybe tuck this in the back of your mind for when we do strategic planning, looking at ways personnel's our biggest expense across the board, public safety, non-uniform. So if there are positions to be consolidated or something after retirements, it's definitely something to look at. Obviously, leave no stone unturned when you're talking about being responsible taxpayer dollars. So definitely something we can look at in the future. Obviously, this position doesn't appear to be one of those situations. So I'm confident to move forward with it.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing too is there's not only value here of bringing the employee back or an employee into this position, high value, but there's added value now. And it sounds like into the future, there's going to be a demand to that service level and value well into the future. So that's good. That's not my phone, by the way.
Not mine either. Oh, mercy. Well, I'd like to make a motion that we authorize staff to advertise to hire a construction code official to fill the vacancy. It is a budgeted expense.
Second.
Okay. So I have a motion to authorize staff to advertise to hire a construction code official to fill the vacancy that we have. And any further, and I have a motion by Commissioner Shin and a second by Commissioner Black.
It is budgeted.
Is there any further discussion? All right. Those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Again, great discussion. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
Looks like there's another item on here for.
That's me. Items above $10,000 need board approval for payment. So you have there the invoice from General Code. This is for our software system. We're paying it in, we'll call it installments, or we're paying it as we get through each phase. So that's for $11,000 and some change. So I need permission to pay that.
Well, what is this doing, Aaron? What?
So we're replacing our permitting software.
Oh, okay.
this has been an ongoing process. We've been in the implementation phase, and as we are going through the phases, they bill us. So it's already been budgeted. In fact, we have financing for it. So it's kind of bled from 2020 into this first quarter.
Is this an interactive system?
So right now we're learning it. Staff is learning it internally and getting all of our past permits, applications, documents put into the system. Once we are familiar with it and know it, which they're going to give us about 6 months, then we will cut loose a customer portal. So right now, our customers download an application or print it off and fill it out and then scan it, email it back. Soon they'll be able to go in and they'll create like a password, a username, and they will just type it in and hit submit, and then it'll be electronic. So it'll cut down on some duplication efforts where our staff is then retyping the information in to get it into the permitting system. So we're all looking forward to that.
Thank you.
So we'd be looking for action tonight, folks, if anybody declined to make this motion. It seems like a pretty standard housekeeping item to we have to approve any expenditure or.
Mr. President, I'll make the motion that we authorize staff to pay $11,345 to General Code Services for the implementation of the new codes permitting software. This is a budgeted expense.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Shin. I have a second from Commissioner Black. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Thank
you, Aaron.
Next, public safety. Is this going to be our Director Hall?
Yes, it is, Mr. President.
All right.
The first item on the public safety agenda is 13A, and that's actually a request last meeting, let me back up a minute. Last meeting, the board actually approved the activation of the Civil Service Commission to start a hiring process with part of the county plan. We realized after that approval that we had omitted a request that we were interested in. And that's what I listed in the memo under 3.6 of the Civil Service Rules, General Qualifications. And it says at the time of the Board of Commissioners authorizing civil service to commence the hiring process, they shall direct whether Act 120 certification will be required prior to appointment. And that's been our basically our path over the last several hirings. Once the board makes the decision on whether or not to require Act 120, a decision will follow throughout that specific testing period. We've not met with the Civil Service Commission. Our plan is to meet hopefully next week, but the board's well familiar with the difficulties that we have had just hiring based off of Act 120. We've been fortunate to get good candidates, but we've in many cases come down to the last person on the list in order to do that. So what the captain and I are requesting for this evolution is for the board basically to allow us to reach outside of the Act 120 requirement and get the best potential candidate. Now that would require, if they don't have Act 120, that they're sent to the academy. But with changes in the contract, their probationary period does not even begin until they graduate from the academy, and they would be back in employment with the township. So we think it's just a way we've lost a lot of really good candidates over the years, recent years, because they did not have Act 120. So they've moved on to other departments that have actually sent them to the academy. So I think that's the purpose of this, is to ask board's approval to change their previous approval and actually allow us to reach outside. And there, some of that is actually the academy is reimbursed to us through the Municipal Police Officers Education and Training Commission. So it really does not change the budgetary requirement.
Well, I know this came up in negotiations with the CBA, and I think my colleagues can help me out with this, but I believe everyone that was sitting at the table on the other side they all went through the academy paid for by the township. So they wanted to tell us, hey, we got some pretty good candidates here by doing that. So
That was a long-standing practice here before I came.
right.
And there was a contract restriction that we stopped doing that, and that's been alleviated.
But you're asking us to open it up this time.
Right, to amend the previous approval to now allow us to direct the commission for this process we're moving into, to also allow consideration for non-Act 120 candidates.
So we will have to budget differently than Dave, right? We'll have to budget to for academy. We pay for the academy, don't we?
No, there's some reimbursement. The manager actually looked into this.
Oh,
It'll just be in a different line item. So we actually save money because although we have to pay the tuition to the academy, we pay people in the academy less money. We're only paying them, I believe, 80% of what a starting patrol person makes. So when you subtract out the difference, we have to actually save a few $1,000s. So it just comes out of a different line item. It come out of training instead of salaries.
okay. Well, I'm ready to move. If the board is, I'd be glad to make the motion that we update the Civil Service Commission activation clause. I mean, I don't know what do you want the motion to say? Is that close?
Basically, yeah, it's just to allow the Civil Service Commission to when they're activated, to include non-Act 120 candidates for consideration in the process.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion on the question from Commissioner Shin. I have a second from Commissioner Holtzman. Is there any further discussion or questions for the director or perhaps the captain? I see Captain Crone's joined us or has been with us. No further questions?
I don't think we lose anything by doing this because we just get to look at more applicants.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
don't necessarily have to hire a non-Act 120 candidate, but we can get to look at them. And if we see some good ones, we can jump on it.
That's right. So right. Call for the question, Mr. President.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? 5-0. What I was going to say is also, I think there's some value here. I think having the wider pool gives our director and our captain to even find maybe even a better fit in the process. So, and I trust them in our cultural abilities here at Lower Allen, and that comes into the next item, the safe policing for the communities.
Good segue.
Yep, Mr. President and fellow commissioners. The next item on the agenda is a report on safe policing for communities. And there's no action required by the board on this. All of the literature that was in your packet, I can just brief over, and that was basically back in June 16th of 2020, then President Trump issued Executive Order 13929, and it required the United States Attorney General to establish law enforcement certification through an independent credentialing bodies. The Pennsylvania Chiefs of Police applied as a credentialing agent. As everybody knows, they're also the Pennsylvania Law Enforcement Accreditation credentialing body for the PA Chiefs. The Department of Justice granted them authority to do that. There was a whole series of things that you had to certify. And Captain Crone actually went through and looked at all of our policies based upon those certification requirements. We made some modifications to some of them to come into compliance with the certification. But based upon that review and the reissuance of a number of our orders, I sent a letter to the commission January 20th on a form that they provided. They basically said we have reviewed all of the Lower Allen Township Police Department policies and procedures, and we find that we are in compliance with Presidential Executive Order, Safe Policing and Safe Communities. On January 31st, Pretty quick turnaround, but I received the certification of safe policing for communities from the PA chiefs, signed by their executive director, Scott Bond. And also, if anybody's wondering where Chief Adams went, he's now the accreditation program coordinator for the PA chiefs. They took Dick Hammond's position over there. So he's the secondary signator on that. It allows us, just as the body worn camera grant that was through PCCD, if there are other federal grants, we're eligible as a certified police department to actually apply for those grants and be considered for their award. So I think it's a great accomplishment. And it, once again, as the board alluded to, it speaks to the professionalism of this police department in the past and how we continually take a look at our current practices in order to maintain that position, that stature moving into the future. So it's informational only. I just thought it was worthy of the board being aware of that taking place.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks.
Well, Dave, do you attribute the quick turnaround, I believe, by the chiefs of police to the fact that we were already CALEA certified?
Yeah, I think that a lot of the things that I think the quick turnaround came from what changes we had to make, and Captain Crone can speak to this, because a lot of the things that they were requiring, we already have done, and we've done it for years under both CALEA and the Pennsylvania accreditation program. So it was not, even though it was, Captain Crone had to go through all of those policies, it was not a heavy lift in the sense that we didn't have a whole bunch of policies that we had to create to come into compliance. We were pretty much already there.
Great.
To speak to that, very little had to change from a practical sense. Our operations changed almost nothing at all. A lot of it was semantic changes in the policy just to ensure that we had the verbiage to go along with the practices that they wanted to see. So as a result of our many years of accreditation and staying on top of the best practices, certainly made it an easier process to go through.
Thank you very much.
Excellent.
Commissioners, anyone else have any questions on this report on safe policing for our communities? Okay, is that it this evening, Director?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And Captain Crone, thanks for keeping things rolling. Appreciate it. Next up is our manager. He's got an item for us on the trap, neuter, and return program.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to kind of brief the board on how that program is going. We required, as part of the program, the agency, who ours is Nobody's Cats Foundation, we require them to report to us annually on the colonies, the feral cat colonies that are registered in the program. I'm going to go ahead and share a screen here so you can see it. You do have it in front of you, but just for anybody else that may be watching and may be interested, these are all the colonies that we have registered, quite a lot. And we've, was it 25 colonies registered, various places. And these columns start, back in 2017, they worked their way through. You can see these are the number of cats that were counted in the colonies. You can see a steady decrease in most of the colonies. One of the most important columns, I think, is this one right here. When you talk about the kittens born in 2020, very few colonies had kittens. Another important column is this one right here, and this is what leads to the reduction in births, is the number of unaltered cats in the colonies. And you can see most every colony, every cat has been trapped, neutered, and returned to the colony to live out their unfruitful lives. So a couple of colonies, these are up in Rossmoyne. We've had a little bit of problem with some of the caretakers up there, but they're coming along. One colony in particular, and I'm not going to recall which one it is. I think it's she may have made a. This colony right here this was in Spring Lake Colony. That we haven't heard from the caretaker in 2 years, so it's now considered to be an unregistered colony. What that means is if the people are caught feeding these cats they're violating the township ordinance and they can be fined. There's one of these colonies in, here we go. I think it's this one right here, the one on Scarsdale, actually has new caretakers. The old caretaker moved away. Folks that moved into the house have agreed to be caretakers. So they're helping to trap that. It says the most kittens born in 2020. So it's a problem area. So we're glad that these people are on board and they're helping trap. And we're just seeing success with the program. It's a little frustrating. I know some folks, it takes years for this thing to work correctly. We've had it in place since 2017, or actually 2016 is when everything got implemented. And some folks said, I don't really want to deal with all these cats. Can't we just get rid of them now? Well, this is a humane way to allow them to live out their lives without producing more cats. One of the comments here, yeah, this is the one. There was one colony where they actually think that the cat moved from one colony to another, which happens sometimes. They ramble, they find a new colony, maybe with.
They didn't get the memo.
Didn't understand that's not what we want them to do. But all in all, the program is working very well. We hope to see great progress in these 6 Ross Moines colonies over the next year. So I think it was a great program to get into, and we're lucky to have Nobody's Cats Foundation right in our township. They're located on Hartsdale Drive, and they've been just a great resource to the township in trapping and neutering these cats.
Thanks for heading that up, Tom.
Yeah, thanks. And I had taken a tour of Nobody's Cats. So if you're interested, they're down on Hartsdale Drive. They'd love to hear from you. They accept donations, but they actually will do on any given day when they're doing surgeries, 50 to 75 surgeries a day, because there are cats from all over the state actually that come here. So when Tom says we're fortunate to have them here, that's an understatement. This is an organization, one of a few throughout the state that's doing these type of things responsibly. And there'll be cats transported from even the western part of the state here to do the surgeries, and then they'll bring the cat back to that area, that colony where they were at. And these folks that work there, most of them are volunteers. They also, I think they have a part-time or a full-time vet, and then they have volunteer vets, I think, that come in and help with the surgeries on really busy days. So I would encourage everybody, if you have the time, pay them a visit after coronavirus is settled down. So thanks, Tom, for keeping that program going. We are fortunate to have that here.
Thank you, Mr. President. That's all I have tonight. And I guess we will have an executive session. Steve, do the board need to take action after executive session?
We do not.
We do not. Great.
Thank you, Tom. So it looks like after executive session, we'll adjourn the meeting. So we'll go straight to commissioner reports. And I'll start with Brad McCullough. Are you with us?
I'm here, but I got nothing to add. So thanks, guys.
Okay. Hope things are going well for you, sir.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Captain Deven, you with us?
Nothing to report. Thank you for the ongoing support. It's greatly appreciated.
Yeah, thank you for your service, sir. Director Flint?
I have nothing additional. Thank you.
All right. Aaron Trone?
I actually do want to give a quick update on our Lower Allen Commons project, if that's all right.
Sure.
First, I want to say that the Development Authority sold the unit that Texas Roadhouse is located on. So don't panic. Texas Roadhouse has a lease and it's there and it'll be there for a long time. It's just that they no longer pay rent to the Development Authority. They pay rent to a different entity. The plan then is to use the funding from selling that towards as capital, as working capital to build out the rest of the site. At their last meeting, they also received an offer for Unit 2, and they decided not to act on that offer at this time. And Wednesday, the Development Authority is holding a special meeting to open bids for the site development. So that's what's happening.
Is that going to be via Zoom, or how's that meeting going to be?
It'll be a Zoom meeting. Mhm.
Oh, it's probably an executive, the whole thing will be executive session, won't it?
I don't think so, because we're opening bids. So
Okay.
it'll be a public process, and then we'll be selecting the lowest bidder.
Got it. Thanks.
And what time is that meeting?
It'll be at 6:30.
6:30? Okay, great. Thank you. Is that it? All right, thank you. Becky Davis, do you have anything else for us?
I do not. Thank you so much, Commissioner.
You
Thank
bet.
you.
Tina Thomas, you with us still?
I'm here.
All right.
I'm not in Florida this week. I am
Oh,
in
good.
All
I
right.
have nothing to add. Thank you.
Have you been on the, oh, you're not in, right, you're not in Florida. So
Not this week.
have you been helping, or have you been actually fishing?
No, I've just been doing stuff with my house
Okay.
down there. Yeah.
I-
I don't do the fishing part.
I like seeing the catch of the day. It's been,
You'll see more after April 1st. I guarantee.
Director Hall, anything else?
I have nothing this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. John Eby?
Thank you. I just want to express my appreciation for authorizing us to start looking for a replacement construction code official. Tom kind of touched on the fact that there's a lot of work tasks that are not plan review and construction inspection. That is all our third party does. There's lots of other work here to be done, other tasks, so it's appreciated. And I will do my best to live up to Tom's comment that there will be staff retirements in the future. Maybe make some room for some transition flexibility.
I highly recommend it, John.
Thank you. I believe you.
Thank you, John. Where are we at here? Mr. Minor, Steve.
Nothing in your public session, Mr. President, but we'll be talking about Regal Partners tax appeal in executive session.
Got it. Got it. All right. And then it looks like Josh Nagy was the only person from the public that hung on at least on my screen. Nothing again, Josh?
Nothing at this time, Mr. President. Thank you, though.
Good to see you. Or good to see your name. How about that? Director Grove.
Oh, thank you, but nothing else
My
tonight.
apologies.
No problem.
I think we're good. Oh, Mr. Vernell.
Not a thing. I'm done.
All right. All right. Commissioner Shen.
Nothing tonight, sir. I had everything I was going to say, I said, so thank you very much. I appreciate the discussions we have been having. They've been very, very good for the cause, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. We've had some good discussions. Yeah, solving a lot of issues, which is good.
That's it for me.
Commissioner Holtzman? Oh,
Nothing.
okay. Did you have something further, Commissioner Shen?
No.
Okay. Commissioner Black?
I'm very pleased that we're participating the way we are in the environmental work, especially with stormwater. And Becky's done an excellent job of helping us get grants to assist with that kind of work. And so I just want to make that comment that I don't know how many other municipalities in the area are being that active, but I sense that we're very proactive. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Cooks?
I have nothing tonight.
All right. I think that covers everybody. I would just like to say thanks. It was a great meeting. I look forward to more good, healthy discussions. And I would like to again give kudos to our public works folks that are clear and safe. They do a heck of a job. I mean, really do, and they deserve a lot of credit for keeping those roads clear. And it is evident that we do a good job here in Lower Allen, so thank you very much. Having said that, we are going to adjourn this meeting to